is Lisa Bain. Welcome to Treasure Talks. I would love for you to take a moment to subscribe to our channel and hit the doorbell so you get notifications about our new videos and content. It has been a joy to meet some incredible heroes over the years through my nonprofit work. Our community is filled with heroes who have such incredible and miraculous stories. These stories need to be heard. These heroes have found treasure in the darkest days of their lives, and they are using it to help others and bring hope to those in our community. Every month, we will spotlight a new story as you meet these community heroes and we chat one-on-one. So stay tuned and be ready to be encouraged and inspired by these community treasures. It's time for Treasure Talks. Hey guys, welcome to Treasure Talks. I'm Lisa Bain and I'm so glad you're here with me today. And I have looked so forward to our guest today. Her name is Jeanette O'Hara. I love her. And I want to introduce to you two, I just have a few little things I want to say about Jeanette. Number one, you are truly one of my heroes. Truly, truly. Will's House. I don't know if you all are familiar with Will's House, but she is the founder of Will's House, and it was named in honor of your son, James O'Hara, who passed away in 2017 at the age of 8, and she's going to tell that story. Jeanette and Brad, your wonderful husband, you adopted Will after he waited patiently in the hospital for 8 years due to his significant medical needs. Brad and Jeanette have 4 sons, two have ongoing medical needs. You worked 15 years as a physical therapist in pediatric and psychiatric settings. You are deeply passionate about the communities of families who are caring for children and young adults with disabilities. You understand the challenges that come with multiple appointments, lost date nights, financial strain, insurance issues, stifling struggles, caregiver burnout, and grief. And it was that grief that you walked through yourself that led you here. You in turn began Will's House to give this gift to the community. And I love this quote. I think I found it on your website. And I don't know if I can read it without crying because it is so her. I just want to offer a cup of coffee and a couch to sit on when caregivers need to vent or rest. I want to offer children and adults a safe home away from home and lifelong community. I did it without crying. That's the first time. I love that because it just exudes you and your love and your personality. Can you take us back to that journey with your 8-year-old and how that really started Will's House?
Sure. My husband and I had 2 biological sons. They were really little, and honestly, the beginning of our marriage hadn't really been that smooth. We had already had a lot of ups and downs, a lot of hardship. We were kind of like, in those early years, we were just getting beat up by life. And we kind of came to this conclusion that we wanted to raise our sons to see that even if your circumstances are kind of hard, you're going to do what God wants you to do in spite of that. And so out of that came, we felt called to do foster care in some way. And it wasn't, great timing. We didn't have a lot to offer, but we felt like we were supposed to do that. And we felt like we could maybe be a place for medical needs specific foster care. But then we started realizing that a lot of the kids that were truly waiting to be adopted and were available for adoption were not being selected because of their medical needs for very long periods of time. And Will was one of those kids. He was growing up in only a hospital environment. He was available for adoption from birth, but he was almost 8 and living a life in a hospital, and just having a huge personality and having life, but only in this one environment. And so he was older than our biological children, but we began to pursue him. And then, once the world knows you'll take kids with medical needs, we received lots and lots of calls about, but we were really selective with our yeses and nos and things like that. But we were able to bring Will home. We knew that his medical needs were terminal or life limiting, but we didn't know, any kind of timeline. Really. Wow. And so we knew we would be the parents that would be with him at the end. And the greatest thing about Will was that he had never lived in the world. And so we asked him a lot, like, are you ready? Like, do you want to go out there? Like, do you want to, this is going to be different. And every single time he would point to the door, like, let's go. He's like super brave, and just ready to try and ready to go to school, ready to be a brother, just a kid that really should have been in the world all along. And so we brought him home, and you have to do 6 months of trial adoption before your adoption can be finalized. And so we were in that 6-month period, and he began to get sick around January. That was probably about 5 months in. And, but he was still up and down a lot. We actually had dismissed hospice care because he was doing so well.
Wow.
So it was starting to look by February like, he wasn't doing great. And so when he was in the hospital, he still wasn't legally ours. And so we couldn't make any decisions for him as parents. So that was really, really a learning curve. I mean, we're there to be parents, and then we just couldn't, we didn't have any kind of rights or anything. And so our attorney we had made it 6 months, and so they hurried, and they got us an adoption date. So while Will was in the ICU, still alert and still coherent, but I drove to the adoption by myself. And then they had him on FaceTime with Brad and his worker, and we adopted him. And the only time that Brad and I were there at the hospital together was the next morning. We had been rotating, and I'd spent the night and Brad had stayed so that we could go over some things about the adoption. And he walked in the next day at 7:00, and Will decided to go peacefully at that time with both of us there. He, like I said, he was awake and alert during the adoption. So he knew that was done, and we just prayed that he would show us if he wanted to stay. We would fight with him to get back to where he was, and if he was ready, then he wasn't by himself. And that's such a hard thing, obviously, but it was so beautifully completed. Like, we were just relieved that we made it in time.
Yeah.
Like, we were just like, that was so close to not being anything for him. And so of course, that's a hard moment. That's a stop and pause grief event for my children, for us, for my extended family, for our foster community. But everyone was kind of like, well, you did this, and now good job. You don't have to do anything else hard for the rest of your life. And we were like, no, because the problem is, though, that there's other people in this same situation. And like I said, Will was a perfect example of someone that should have been living in the world, not growing up in a hospital. And we had already started to pursue some other children, even when Will was still alive. And so we waited a while, dealing with our other 2 boys and our grief. And we went on to, we adopted another child that was waiting. And he was 4 at the time we met him, but he was available for adoption. He was living in a group home. So we were hopeful that getting him at 4, getting him right into school.
Were there health needs?
Yes. And he has physical disabilities and is nonverbal, doesn't have a life-limiting diagnosis, just has disabilities, and was just waiting around. And we were like, well, 4 is great because then you can go right into school. He was just needed to get out here. And so that's our Liam that we have now. He's almost 9. And then at the same time we got Liam, we took a foster placement that was a medical situation due to injuries that he had as an infant. And they said, this isn't for adoption. This is just because we need a medical placement. And we were like, well, okay. So we actually got them both at the same time, a foster baby with medical needs and our Liam. So that brought us to 4. And fast forward 2.5 years later, the baby that wasn't supposed to stay stayed, and he's just a little miracle all his own. So that's who we have.
You've got the 4.
We've got the 4. They're doing well. And in the meantime, one of our biological sons has pretty significant medical needs. It wasn't at all like he was slipping through the cracks. We always knew that he had medical differences too, and some challenges. But it's interesting. We always say, like, we chose some of the hard things. Like, we got to choose, or know a little bit more going into it. And then God chose some really specific hard things for us through our biological child. So learning about the different types of grief, again, like kind of preparing for certain griefs and then, having some that are different and you experience differently. I think that helps us to minister to a lot of different families too, because we have
through it. Well, you've walked through it and you know it.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so tell me how Will's House got started and how long it's been going, kind of what y'all are doing. It's amazing.
Right. So about a year ago, my family has needs, and so I was always working sort of part-time as a physical therapist, and kind of we patched together our schedules due to our children's needs. But we had been very supported by a foster and adopt community during that time. And when that kind of came to a close, in the medical needs or special needs community, it's really hard to find. There's little pockets of parents that stick together, but it's really hard to find that community or that kind of support. And I was finding as a PT, you get involved in these families, you know them for years, and there'd be times that a 19-year-old single mom would be coming to me with a baby who just came out of the NICU and just has oxygen via nasal cannula or something, and she would just be so tired, and she would say, "My mom's scared to watch the baby because of the oxygen, and I'm just so tired." And you think about like the grief of having this situation, being a single mom, being young, being so exhausted. And I just, as a physical therapist, I just wanted to be like, let me have that baby for like a couple hours. That's so easy. That's such an easy thing for me to do. But there were limitations to what I could do to help families. As a physical therapist, I had a time limitation. I have a license, to do this one thing. And so Brad and I were talking about, if I had to cash in my whole network of these families that I've treated for so long, or other moms that I am in community with, what would I do with that? And I just wanted to be free to say yes to all the needs that were coming my way. So I wanted to build a model that reached multiple ages, people in different stages of life, but also encouraged the community to see this need for childcare and respite care for caregivers, for the community to say, right, we don't have something like that for you, but we could do this for you, and we could all be really proud of it, and it would build this community for you that's lifelong. So that's where my model is based on having a home within the community that's used for drop-in childcare needs that are medically specific, respite care needs, which would be young adults staying at the house or longer periods of time, overnight or whatever, and supporting families by being like, this is your house. If a mom doesn't feel comfortable leaving her child, she could go take a nap in the house, or sit on the back porch and read. And you have this, the house is the gift. The house is saying, this is yours to use for these needs of rest and childcare. And it's a very cost-effective model. It's very small, it's very simple, but it meets a lot of needs.
Wow.
So we've only been going about a year. We do not have a house as of yet.
Because they're going to get one. They're going to get one.
It's COVID time and the market is crazy. But around November of last year, we just pivoted and started meeting as many needs as we could, starting with date nights and Christmas shopping, childcare. All of our services are free at this point, or you can use the state respite vouchers that the state will give you money to use for respite providers if you can find one. So they can pay that directly to Will's House, or they can have the services at this point free of charge. And we've met over 150 needs in the past year with just either going into people's houses or them coming to me, anywhere from an hour to 4 days, 5 days.
So is it just you? Does Brad help? Do you have any people helping?
Right. I mean, I have an excellent board of advisors. They're all skilled either in healthcare or in community positions, or their moms. We have a single mom that's also serving the community in a powerful way, and she's a perfect example of, if we don't support her and her child, then we're taking a really great person out of the community position they're supposed to be in and their gifting. And Brad is my best employee. We have, all of our
Brad!
He's watching our children now. But all of our people would be background checked, and most either have experience already with medical needs. We have special education teachers that aren't currently working, or students that are in social work, or medical professionals that are doing part-time like me, therapists, and we're hoping to add more once we have a home and we can rotate staff. A lot of the hands-on is me, but we have a team waiting in the wings to serve.
Yeah, well, speaking of serving, one of the things that we talk about with our Lisa May Ministries is serving, stepping out, seeing miracles. And gosh, you do that every day. And I mean, even just from what you've gone through, and I remember my mom used to say, go treasure hunting, find treasures in the darkest places. And I mean, you walk that out. I just listen to you describing what you're doing, and it's just who you are. It's your tapestry. And I'm thinking, you are so rare. I mean, seriously, you are just, there is a crown in heaven for you. And when you were talking about being with Will as he was going to heaven, I could just envision angels just in that room at that moment. And it was just you all, and it just, what you're doing is so huge. And I just want you guys to get a house.
We would like to get a house.
I want you to get a house.
Yes. The house we can be so efficient. At this point, we haven't had to wait list anyone. We've been able to meet the needs, but we can meet so many more and so efficiently. And it's social. It allows for, a lot of times respite care is a provider coming into the house with the patient, say they're a young adult, and the parent leaves. Well, then that young adult didn't get to leave. So what we're doing is saying it's like an Airbnb, like you come hang out at the house within your community.
Is that not the coolest thing ever?
And then, or you could do it with a friend. So you get the weekend, and if you're semi-independent, then you're semi-independent in this little house for your vacation or whatever. But if you're more dependent, then we have the skill to meet that need. What you were saying about just the finding treasure, one thing I will say is that it benefits us tremendously too to build our community. And it keeps us from being isolated. One thing that I see the most is how isolated these families are. They've long given up on help. And when I go into whatever, they see it as their chaos. They're like, oh, I don't know if you should come in here. This is so hard, or nobody's been in here in a long time. And I'm always just so thankful when I stand in there, no matter how, what the job is or how many kids or what the needs are. I'm always just so thankful that they let me in to what they really have, or if they didn't clean their house. I'm so thankful. I'm like, thank you for not cleaning your house for me. Like, let me into your mess, and then I'll show everyone else what this need is. But you got to come out and not be isolated. And on the days that we feel our hardest grief, Brad and I, we want to isolate too, and we fight that by doing things like Will's House. So many of your people that sit here and talk about grief, I mean, that you have to keep moving forward in these passions, because it's a gift. And if you sit for too long, I mean, I'm just as susceptible to go under as the next person. And
I was going to ask that next question is, how do you not go into a funky place? I had someone say, well, Lisa, you never go into a funky place. I'm like, you should have been with me yesterday. I mean, it's just so easy to go into that place, and you can't isolate. And that's the one thing.
I think something people don't understand about full-time caregiving or having a family that's not typical is that you go into a funky place, you go from extreme highs to extreme lows multiple times a day. So like by 8 o'clock, I could already be having like a moment of like complete despair. And I know it's going to go up and down, and I always have to rally to like get through. Like, it's so much faster than people think. You could have a moment that's so great, followed by something that seems so hopeless, all within the same
It's just like this.
5 minutes. Yeah, and so you have to kind of level out and let that be your norm. So absolutely go to a funky place all the time, or me and my husband will be in that place on a different day. You never.
Oh yeah, never.
It's real bad if you're both. Yeah, if you're both in the funky place, like one of you has to get it back up. But it definitely, it's not easy. Or sometimes families won't use me because they're like, we don't want to put more on you. And I'm like, well, no, this is my job now. I want you to ask me. I want you to do it. And because of the way we've built our family, and because Brad is an equal partner and a wonderful dad and a wonderful caregiver, I can leave my chaos with him and go deal with someone else's chaos. And we've been supported, and we are supported enough to do this. And my family is different, and there's a lot of no's for our family. There's a lot of things we cannot do. Like, they're off limits to us because of the disabilities. But our family is built on accepting whatever comes through the door, whether someone can talk, whether someone can walk, whether someone's, goofy. My children are wonderful at this as well, all of them. And so as far as, if I had to build a family business that was meant for my people, they're doing it right now. They're at home with another, they call him the other brother.
Oh,
and,
my goodness.
It's the best, it is the best that of our giftings. It's the most complete ministry we could
You get to see
build.
the big miracles because you are constantly stepping outside of that comfort zone. And every day I pray for you, Jeanette. I pray buckets full of grace. Buckets full and buckets full. And isn't it amazing on those tough days when you feel that grace just help catapult you forward? So, okay, what is the greatest need right now? To get you guys a house?
Yes, the greatest need is to get a house. We're looking at the beginning of the year. I'm full all the way to the end of the year. When we budget and plan, that budget and plan includes the house. Everything will function more efficiently because I do have volunteers waiting to furnish a house, to serve the house. So, it's a single family home that's handicap accessible.
We're needing a single family. Okay, I know that there are viewers out there, and I cannot think of a more amazing organization. I can't even talk about you with crying. What you do is just, I've seen it. I know your heart, and I want you guys to get a house. There's someone out there that is going to be able to help this amazing organization get a house to be able to do exactly what you've been talking about. And what is your email? We're going to post all this, by the way. What's the best way to contact you if someone wants to give, donate, knows of a house, can help get that house?
Right. They can go through either the Wills House Facebook page, the willshouse.tulsa.org website, excuse me, and it's Jeanette, JeAnette at willshouse.tulsa.org.
And we're going to post all of this. And do you need any volunteers? If there's other
we always need volunteers. I mean, I'm ready. Volunteers are amazing. Volunteers are everything. We background check because we do childcare.
Sure.
But we need people. Sometimes we just need people to transport kids from school to daycare or something like that. And that saves a single mother her job.
Yes.
Because she doesn't have to leave in the middle of the day and transport.
It.
There's just simple things. Or we need equipment donations moved. We need a truck or something like that.
Well, we are just going to believe that you're going to be getting lots of donations, and we're believing that they're going to be able to get their house. And I would just like to end in prayer. And if you're walking through maybe a child that has special needs, if you are walking through that exhaustion of being a caregiver, the grief, any of the things that we've talked about, please contact Jeanette. I'm telling you, she is a lifeline. You are a lifeline connection for those about to fall off the rope. And God is just going to bless. And I would just love to end this time in prayer. And Lord, thank you so much for this amazing organization that makes such an impact on the community. For those that are facing a hopeless seeming situation right now, no matter what it is, what dark place it might be, if it's with themselves, with a child, with any child care, Father, we just pray that you would just send armies of angels, that you would just bring peace, but that more than any, Father, you would just wrap your arms around them so they would not feel alone, that they would not feel isolated. And I pray, Father, that they would reach out for help and that they would get in contact with Jeanette. And Lord, I pray that you would just place on the hearts of the donors and sponsors to be able to get this amazing house to help these amazing kids in this amazing organization who's doing such a great and wonderful work, Jesus. We love you and we thank you and we just give you the praise that they're going to get a house. In Jesus' name, amen. I knew I wouldn't get through this without crying. I love you so much. And there's just those people that you feel an instant connection like their family. And you and Brad are those people. So thank you for being here. And thank you guys for watching. And please go visit their website. There is not an organization that I can say enough good about. We support them. Lisa Bain Ministries will do everything we can to help in any way we can. So make sure you go to our YouTube station and click the little bell. You can go to lisabain.com for any more information. We will have all of Jeanette's information on. Thank you for joining us. And Jeanette, thank you.
Thanks for having me.
And we'll see you next time. And I'm going to get through one without crying. Well, we know that won't happen. Bye. Thank you for joining us at Treasure Talks. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you can stay up to date with the latest videos. You will not want to miss out. If you'd like more information on the growing projects of Lisa Bain Ministries and how we're helping the community, please visit us at lisabain.com.